Healing crystals, skincare routines, knitting a sweater, fitting in jeans. With Katie and Sarah, no need to worry, you're on a lady journey.
Email right now? I know. I'm the worst. I'm like, okay, let me go look that flight information. And I'm like, just looking at Pinterest. They're like, where are you? And you're like, I've moved into another room.
Yeah, people are like, can you take a photo of us? I'm like, sure. I'm just like looking at my tweets. I'm like, what on earth was I doing? Okay.
So self-centered.
No, you just said something that I thought was, you have to say it again to follow up to the last podcast.
Follow up on our financial one that we just did. I forgot to say this, but my grandmother always said, and she was good at investing. And it wasn't like she, was a genius or, she was like a little old lady. She said, always invest in a company that you like on the ground level. So, if you go into the Apple store and you're like, oh, the employees are always really nice and I think their products are nice and then they charge like fair prices. Those are the companies that you should invest in because it means if they're managed on such the lowest level and it's running smoothly, it means that their management is great. So that means like that's a good company to invest in. And so one of them, I went to Wawa, and if you've never, it's a gas station in Philly.
It's a gas station, but it's also
like a
grocery store.
Yes, and they make sandwiches, and it's run really well. It's so easy to put your order in, get gas, get a good sandwich, get coffee. It's clean. I like the colors. It's red and white.
Yes, it's very soothing. And it has that kind of soothing atmosphere where you're like, oh, safety.
Yeah, if you're like, it's like a safe haven in the middle of the night to be like, Wawa. I wish there was a Wawa in every city. It's one of the nicest gas stations experience. And man, for a lot of us driving, that's your daily experience.
Yes.
And so I looked to see if it was a public company, and it's not. So, Wawa, if you become a public company, let me know, and I will start investing in you.
I just think that's so funny. I think that's, like, very true. But it's also so funny because, like, the people that love Wawa, they love Wawa. They're like, Wawa!
I never understood it because there's a lot of comics that are from Philly that live here in New York, and they talk about it on podcasts a lot, and I never was like, come on. A gas station?
Yeah.
You're out of your goddamn mind. And then you go there and you're like, no, it's actually a really nice experience. It's just like, I don't know.
It's clean. It's not like a 7-Eleven where you go in and you're like, why does this entire place smell like the one hot dog that's like on the roller?
It's a psychiatric hospital is what a 7-Eleven is.
It truly is. I had to go to a 7-Eleven when I was in DC and I was like trying not to eat sugar. I was trying not to eat carbs. And it's like, they just don't have any healthy options there at all. I got a banana.
Awful. It's traumatic. It's just bad. And I in my older years, I've become such a snob about businesses. I walk into a business and if it's not run well, I get upset. I'm like, what the fuck are you guys doing in here?
Yeah.
If I see boxes unpacked and you're using your store as a storage space, that is wild.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you. Yeah, I just do not like 7-Eleven. And it's always like, you always see like ne'er-do-wells, like, not to use an antiquated word from the Middle Ages, but like 7-Eleven, it's always like a weird, like, obliterated college kid.
Yes.
Like in the back, like with 8 types of chips. It's like, I can't be around that. It's 3 p.m. on a Sunday.
No, and the lighting in there is horrific, and
it's like, just get rid of the hot food. Get rid of the hot food. You have one piece of pizza that's under a heat lamp.
A hot dog that's just been rolling for 20 years back there. I don't know who's running stuff. You know what another business I can't stand is Insomnia Cookies. I'm about to rip. It sounds like a great idea. They sell cookies. They're supposed to be warm and like baked freshly every hour.
Good, though. They're so good.
They are good, and it's open till like 2 a.m. in the city. But every time I go in there, the employees have all their friends just hanging out. There's like a dude taking a nap on the cooler.
That's hilarious, and it's so small. It's literally the size of this kitchen table that we're sitting at, and you're like, "Hi, I just love to get in. I just love to buy a cookie."
I know, you're like, for a cookie company, why is this one of the most unwholesome places I've ever it smells like pot the whole time.
Yes,
which
it's
we'll
one of
get
those
into
places.
as our unpopular opinion later.
Yes, we will.
But yeah.
But they're so good. But I was right by what cookie place was I by in Astoria that I finally tried, and I was so disappointed with it.
Is it the Levin one? There's one that they're known that they kind of have a line. It's a thicker cookie, almost like a muffin / cookie.
This one was. I don't remember it being thick, but they had like these curious flavors. I guess that's how I would put
Lavender.
It was more like
chocolate.
They had like the Italian like rainbow cookie flavor, or like I got one. I thought it was like a coconut. It was cookie with a hollow center with a pineapple puree inside. It was absolutely disgusting. I thought it was going to be like a coconut cookie.
Yeah.
I hated it. And I mean, my roommates they'd be like, we love it. They would go there all the time. Like, they have all these flavors. And I tried it one time. I was like, this is gross.
Yeah.
And it was also like, each cookie's like $6. You're like, okay, I guess this is my dinner now.
I know, isn't that fascinating when you find like everyone's like, how do you not love it? And you're like, I feel like I'm being gaslighted right here. Like artichoke pizza is another one.
Yeah.
They just ladled soup on top of their sloppy gross bread. One time I got their like artichoke Alfredo pizza or whatever it was.
Oh, no.
I picked it up and all of the toppings slid.
No.
And I was like, can I get a new one? They're like, that's actually how. I'm like, this is how it's supposed to.
Yeah, artichoke, I was never a huge fan of it.
That place
My
is
favorite
bad
pizza
news
place.
bears.
My favorite pizza place, and then I guess we'll have to get started with the episode. My all-time favorite pizza place, Pizzeria. It's in Times Square, which is a nightmare.
Yeah.
So you can't really ever get it. They have no seats inside. It's on 46th Street. No. It's on, I think it's actually on 47th between 7th and 8th Avenue. It might be 46th.
Caroline's or something?
It's kind of by Caroline's. I'm sorry. I'm like leading everyone astray. I'm like, go to a scavenger hunt.
Where is this?
Okay. It's exactly across the street from the Will Rogers Theater, wherever that is, which is where Hamilton is.
Okay.
And it is next to the Scientology Center in New York City. So that's where it is. So good luck. You're on a mission. But there are no seats inside. So you have to get the pizza, eat outside as you're like being like coerced into Scientology. It's that good. They put Parmesan on the pizza. It is the best. And it's like $5 a slice. And you're like, that's a lot, but it's worth it. It's so worth it.
Well, I have to check that out. I've never heard anybody say you've got to go to Times Square
It's
for
my
pizza.
number one.
But I love that. That's a lady journey.
It's such a lady journey.
And only people that listen to this podcast will get that special.
Yes,
treat.
It is a special treat. And I'm going to go there. Not today, not tomorrow, someday.
Maybe for New Year's.
When I was tour guiding, I would go there a lot because I would do my tours. Tours in Times Square.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate a good business anywhere.
Good business. And I will. I hope to do a follow-up episode on cryptocurrency because I am going to figure it out. I'm gonna wrap my mind around it, and I'm going to.
And we will
rich.
explain it, and we'll help everybody get involved in cryptocurrency.
And we will do a lady journey. We'll do our own signature lady journey cryptocurrency. Called Lady Dollars.
And that's the only way that you can. The money, Lady Dollars, is to buy. That's our new currency.
Yes. Yeah. You can buy our merch.
Yeah. If you get our $5, you'll get 3 Lady Dollars that can go towards any Lady Journey merchandise.
Yes.
I love this like grift that we're doing.
We're just scamming the wonderful people that have supported us. If you're just tuning in to Lady Journey, thank you so much for supporting us. And thank you for leaving the reviews. You guys have been so freaking awesome with the reviews.
Yes,
thank
it helps
you.
us. That pushes us up the algorithm and charts. There are charts. I don't know what they are, but we get notifications
94th
out of that. I wish they would be like
Question
out of how
mark,
many.
Yeah. could be 100, could be 1,000, could be 2,000.
We have no idea,
but we're the
whatever
94th,
it is,
lifestyle and beauty podcast.
Yes, and I'd like to say that we're the funniest out of the lifestyle.
Absolutely, and we're the least pretentious.
Yes. Shall we just get into
Let's get into our journeys because we have so much fun stuff today. Well, I have been on a journey. And I know, like, I am such a person that I just, like, look down my nose at, like, people that are super into astrology, and yet I am also into it. So
yes.
I have been reading tarot cards since I was about 13 years old. My aunt gave me a deck of tarot. I have the Rider-Waite tarot, which is like the classic deck. And I taught myself to read them by, I would like choose a card every day, and then I would like journal about what I noticed, and then I would read about it, and then I would like later journal about like what happened that day and how I could like apply it to myself. And you know, when I was in college, when I was really into it, I was like doing tarot cards for other people. And, you know, I think tarot cards is like a thing that it's very tempting to be like, oh, this is like a thing of like magic, you know? But I don't really see it in that way. I think of it more as like an intuitive, like reading tool where it's like, I am like, if I'm doing tarot for somebody, I am reading them based on the subconscious, like intuitive flashes that I'm getting. But because I'm using the tarot cards, I'm like projecting it on the tarot cards. It makes it seem like I'm learning things from the tarot when really I'm just picking up stuff via like first impression.
Yeah, I've always thought, I've gone to a few with friends.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've ever had mine. I think I would have remembered, but I have been through, and I've had a friend break up with a boyfriend.
Really?
But I actually feel like sometimes the questions alone, like, should I stay with this guy?
Yeah.
That if you're asking that, any smart tarot, you wouldn't even need a card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would be like, yeah, you should not be in this relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, if it's not a yes, it's a no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need any Lady of Cups to let you know that. Yeah.
Well, that's why I think, like, you know, when people do like high level tarot reading, it is almost like a grift in a way of they're just actually reading the person in a way that like these people that are like high level scam artists can read people and just like tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But it's like you are actually reading the person. It's like it's a skill. It's a skill, but I don't really read tarot cards anymore for people. You know, I used to do a thing too. It was like my long, like sexy trick where I'd be like, my long time sexy trick where I'd be like, hey, I read tarot. And you want to like come back to my apartment? And I would like read a guy's tarot and I'd be like, it just seems like you're in love with someone.
It says, you'll be in a bed late.
Yeah.
Soon.
You're going to be kissing me. I'm just like reading it and like,
it's like, it's the Grim Reaper.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
That's the love.
Yeah, that's
guy.
the love card. Yeah. It's like the devil. Yeah.
Yeah, that just means that your life will be over after this.
After me.
Yeah, because
we're in love.
The death of your previous life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ta-da. But now I've been doing it. I've actually just been doing it. And this is the most effective that it's ever been for me, is I'm doing like tarot readings alone. I'm just flipping the cards. I'm doing like a classic Celtic cross spread, and which is like what you're going through in your life, what led up to it, what happened in the past, what this is like going to maybe be in the future, like what this could potentially turn into, what your environment is, what your hopes and fears are. And so I lay it out. I read the cards, and I read, I just use like an internet tarot directory. I use one, I think it's called Biddy Tarot, which I love. So basic, such a basic name for a tarot. Biddy Tarot. And I read it, and I just allow the messages, because it's all different types of like messages. Everything is like whatever. It could be a range. If it's like the King of Cups, it's like this could be a guy with money, or it could be a new job, or it could be like an idea for a business venture, or it could be like, you know, a new like emotional feeling that you're working through. There's so many different things that it could be. So I just read all of them, and then I just kind of let it resonate with me, and I think about my life and what I'm going through from a different perspective from these cards. And I use it in a way that I'm like, oh, you know, like recently I got a card that was like an advice of like, don't gossip too much, you know?
I hate that one.
I know, which I know. I was like, man, whoopsie. Right?
You're like, couldn't have interpreted this something differently?
Yeah. Maybe you do gossip. But I was like, oh, I wonder if there's like an area in my life where I'm just like talking shit too much and I maybe need to pull back. Because you never know, like sometimes, not in this case, but, you know, sometimes it's like maybe somebody could perceive you in a negative light or something.
Oh, my God. I know. I think about that all the time with the gossip.
Gossip is a tricky, because some people will think better of you.
Well, I like to pretend that it's my way of protecting the herd.
You know what? Well, I think
I need you to know who your crazies are.
we need to know.
Don't just know on the background. Like, keep them a safe distance.
Yeah.
Don't be rude to them personally, but just know what you're dealing with.
Just ostracize them.
Just ostracize.
Because they're too
Lightly.
weird for the cool table. But yeah, I like that was one that I got, and I think I was doing like a lot of work at that time, and I realized like sometimes I had like worked through this with my actual therapist, but sometimes because of my anxiety, my social anxiety, I just won't stop talking, and I'll like end up like talking shit about somebody in order to like continue to have something to talk about, when really it's actually totally fine to just sit and
That's
be
a hard one.
quiet, you know?
I have that one. Sometimes I'm like, I know I'm talking a lot, and I'm only doing that because I can't have it silent.
Yeah.
And I actually want this person to maybe leave, but they're not doing anything about it.
Yeah.
And then eventually I just offend them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so uncomfortable where you're like, oh, well, fuck.
If you talk for long enough, you will eventually say something that is offensive.
Hurtful.
Yeah.
I did one this week.
Like, actually, I've never liked you. Goodbye.
Oh my God. I did this one this weekend where it was so bad. Like, so I met these new comics and I guess Germany comedy scene is actually pretty diverse. And they were just joking of like, when it's fully diverse, there's no diversity. You know what I mean? Like, so we're all pining for spots. Cause there was one girl that was like, there's only like one or two girls in the scene. And she's like, I get them all. And I was like, great, take advantage of that. Cause I'm like, this business is nepotism.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I know my niece, she has autism, or she's on the spectrum, and she went to college and is in a dorm for special needs. And they're all special needs. So when everyone's special needs, it's like nobody's special. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then he was like, great, you just compared all brown people to disability. And I'm like, that's not what I did. But I understand from the he was like, I had to do it. And we laughed about it. But at the same time, you're like, fuck.
Yeah, you're like, whoopsie.
I went into
Whoopsie-doo.
Homer Simpson into the bushes.
Yeah, it gets especially tricky, like when you're talking about something like race or something like
I did both. I did
like,
diversity
like
with
disability.
autism.
Yeah, that one's always like very tricky, because like sometimes you actually don't even know what you're talking about, but then you're like, and I've already started speaking, and now I guess I'm making a point about something I saw on Fox out of the corner of my eye when I was at my uncle's house, you know, and people are like, what? And you're like, I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just talking because I need out of this scenario, and you guys won't leave.
Yeah.
Like I felt bad, but I think it was all good.
It's all good.
And they're fine, but it was definitely like, God, why did that happen? But you know what it sounds like when you're doing the tarot cards? It reminds me of when I do a 12-step program, there's one of the steps of taking an inventory, and it's basically you go through all the areas of your life where you fucked up, or you was the problem, or somebody did you wrong, and you go, and there's several, like, I should remember this because it's been a while since I've done my inventory, and I should be doing it kind of on a regular basis, but there's like 3 lines that you do, or columns, and like what's your part in it, what's not your part in it, so you can see like where you're responsible, because for a while you'll be like, this person fucked me over, this has fucked me over, and then you start realize, when you write all this down, you realize that you're like, I'm the common denominator. What I keep doing over in these scenarios, and then what I'm not, like, learn. So you become self-aware of what you're dealing with, and that's what your tarot card, but in another formation.
Yes,
sounds like it's happening.
It's all about, I think the similarity between these is like seeing something from a different perspective, and then you get the self-awareness, because it just sometimes feels like when like things are happening and it's all just like a mess in your mind.
Yeah, and you're self-centered about it.
You're self-centered, and you're like, what is even, sometimes like I go out and I feel anxious and I feel like something went wrong, and then everything was fine.
Yeah.
But it's like because of my own, like, maybe I was like tired or whatever. It's like everything is just so hard to actually even know what's happening in your mind. Like, does this person hate me? They're like, no, I've been your best friend for 9 years. I don't hate you.
Sorry, I didn't give like a cartwheel.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can go into like a mini downward spiral.
It's easy to go into a spiral. And like I was at the Comedy Cellar, as you know, I work
every
there.
weekend.
I'm there every weekend, and we'll be there one day this week. And well, I was like feeling a little awkward in there recently, and I think I was just tired, but I remember I was feeling awkward, and I was like, you know, one thing I always tell myself when I'm feeling awkward, I'm like, no one notices. No one is noticing. It's me, and it's something that's happening inside, and usually people can't notice. But then someone who I felt that I was awkward towards, that person later texted me the next day and was like, I was feeling really awkward last night, and I hope I wasn't weird to you. I felt like maybe I was being weird, but I kind of couldn't tell. And I was like, oh my God.
We were both downward spiraling together.
We were both spiraling together, yet so separated. So it's like, you know, that's the kind of thing. But like, I need the tarot sometimes to like check me out of, you know, to help me notice like patterns. If I'm like, oh yeah, I did have like a new financial like venture. But you know, it's crazy too with the tarot, because of the mental confirmation bias that you see within everything. Anything you lay out, it could be any card, but it's like the way that you interpret it and what it means in your mind. That's what really shows you what's going on inside of you. Yeah. You know?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'd love to have a tarot reading.
I'll give you one. I'll give you one. Well, but I think it's better. I now think it's better if you just do it yourself.
Do it yourself.
It's like your own interpretation of like even just like reading a book.
Well, I think I wouldn't even need to know like any of the interpretation. I think I'd like to just get coffee and just flip cards over and have that sound, and then the ritual of that would be good enough for me.
What's this? Okay.
Oh, how pretty. It's a guy in a boat going across the Hades River.
Yeah. Fun. But what was your journey that you were going on? You were doing some retail therapy, I think.
Yeah, well, you know.
Which is a great piggyback to our last episode.
Oh, my God. Well, Instagram gets me. I don't know. The only thing that understands me in my life is my Instagram ads.
Ugh, they're so good.
I know. Sometimes I'm like, now with Instagrams, it's so easy because it says shop now, and I'm like, okay, let me just see how much this
go
is.
Right over it. Yep.
And then so I just do like lots of impulse purchases, and there is a thing sometimes if I'm feeling depressed, I'm just like, well, let me just go to CVS and just see what's like in the beauty department.
I love CVS.
Yes.
I love just browsing around because they have deals.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, nuts, $8.
Yeah, just get like a fancy snack, maybe a face mask. Oh, I haven't painted my nails in a while. This would be a nice treat.
Yeah. It does make you feel so good to spend, like, to just blow like $100 on yourself. It's like an act of self-care.
It is.
And then you like can't pay your rent. It's an act of self-care that's actually very self-harm.
It is, but if I just like new things, I love it. Like getting I'll get something that's like, say Joe gets a lot of swag, whatever it's called when they send you free shit.
Swag. I say swag. I think swag
is for bad weed.
Bad weed. Yes. Okay. We're on the same page.
Okay, that's what I thought. I always just get them confused. But he'll get like, so I got that away backpack over there. And
that's a gorgeous backpack. I was admiring it earlier.
The ergonomics of it, it's one of the most
that's like $180 backpack, I think.
I know, and they just sent
I know my backpacks, bitch. I know my backpacks.
I wanted to talk. I wasn't sure if a lady journey just called purses would be enough for a podcast, but maybe it will, because
I do think so.
I have to go into. I think a lot of stuff made for a woman is put no thought. I think stuff made for men, there's more thought put into it and the way that they move and conduct their lives, because there's so many purses that I'm like, who is this for?
Yeah, like
it takes me 10 minutes to find something in here. This is ridiculous.
How about a 4-foot chain strap that's digging into my shoulder?
Or I see on the blogs they're like, the purse for winter is the shoulder bag. I'm like, on a puffy coat?
Yeah.
Those things just fall off my shoulder.
I have slope shoulders, please. Nothing staying on there.
I need a fanny pack or like a crossbody bag. But this backpack has been great. But I digress. Like getting that or like little like he got a CBD vial thing, and I was like,
a
this
little
is fancy.
dropper. Yes.
It's just like fancy, but like even
I
it's
love
something
it.
that's not even a hobby that I'm into. If I like get it, like when you go into a store, you're like, I must have this, and I don't know why. Like I saw there was an igloo cooler, and it had the retro colors, and I'm like, why do I want this? And I don't need it.
Oh, but you just like, you're like, I don't, it feels so good to be like, I'm not saying no to myself. I am a queen today.
I need this cooler that can hold maybe one can and a sandwich. And it'll just be, it'll be under my sink for a year. You're like, I do not need this, but it is calling my name.
For me, it's Sephora. I just get on there. I'm like, I just spent $100 on there. I just spent $100 like doing nothing. But then I'm like, well, I'm not getting Botox, and I want to look my best. And then, but it's kind of like, with the, like we were talking with the money episode, it's like you get so used to like scrimping and like never spending any money, and then it's like when you actually have money, then you're like, oh well, it feels great to spend it.
Yeah,
it's great to be like, I'm treating myself to $100 of Sephora. I don't do this that often. I'm not spending like $1,000.
Yeah, no, and it does. I do have to say, there is probably nothing wrong with doing that.
Nothing wrong.
Every now and then.
Except for if you don't really have the money. And then you're like turning down work because you're like, I don't feel like it. And you're like, well, okay.
Oh my God. Do you do the thing where you buy something and then I used to do this when I waited tables. This is where it's like so hard. Where you're like, all right, I bought this. All right, so I have to punish myself. I have to work 70 hours next week.
Oh, no, I never do that.
Oh my God.
But I had such a sad thing happen to me last week because I got a call of a corporate Christmas party, and I was like, I won't do it for less than $1,500, and they were like, we could pay you $1,500, and I was like, great.
Suckers.
Yeah.
I'm always like,
dumbass.
They have no idea what they're getting.
Yeah. Well, it was for an NFT thing. I'm like, these people, you don't, what's an NFT? You're making up that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to make up, but these corporates are like a nightmare, these holiday parties. But then they were like 80% sure, and then the next day they pulled the plug.
That happens to you. I've had that happen, and then it makes me think
family.
They saw my YouTube or looked at a few tweets.
They saw my stuff to begin with. That's why they contacted me.
Oh,
well, I think I was talking to the party planning person, and she pitched me to the like company, and I think they were like, no, we don't really want a performer for 15 minutes for $1,500.
I also suspect that they had one bad comic that has ruined it.
Yeah, they probably had somebody.
Else.
Yeah, some like
did a corporate, and they talked about their pussy.
It was like Don Rickles being like, "Hey, here's a slur."
Yeah.
Like, what? We don't talk like this anymore.
I know, because I've done a few like I remember Danny Palmer had us do like a corporate where I love that I just put his name out, but I don't think he cares.
He's great. He did review the podcast.
Oh, that's so
He's
sweet.
the sweetest.
He did one, and it was just like, he's like, they don't care. You can do whatever. And you're like, okay, are you sure?
That's such a Danny thing to say.
I know. And you're just like in a corporate place just talking about jizz that you're like, this has got to be an issue. But I've seen people do like, I'm like, what are you doing? You cannot do this. Even if they say, just do whatever. They have no idea what whatever means.
Yeah, it's like people think that because you don't have like a lot of equipment that's stand up, you can like do stand up anywhere. It's like, well, it's not gonna. You can, but it's not gonna work,
and it's gonna be weird for everyone involved.
Yeah,
but
that was my sad story about getting money dangled. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna really buy my family Christmas presents this year, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm really gonna not. That
it's worse when there is the feeling of getting something.
Yeah.
Or almost there, and then it changes. That's why sometimes I wish you could use almost getting something as a credit.
Yeah.
You're like, can I use this still as something?
You kind of can. I mean, I see people use stuff as credits that I'm like, oh, I did that. I didn't realize that was a credit.
Yeah, I had no idea.
I was in the running for...
I was in the contention for maybe an SNL writing, but yeah, you can't ever. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. But you know what I do care about? Our main topic today, which this is a new segment that we're going to be doing, which I'm very excited about, and you came up with it. Unpopular opinions.
Unpopular opinions. And there is I want to give credit though, because there is a podcast by Dave Temple called this, and it's really enjoyable. But also TikTok does like No Nuance November, which is really fun when people just throw out like things they hate. It's almost like a did you ever do what's the one the culturistas do? I Don't Think So, Honey.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I Don't Think So, Honey is really funny. So you should always go check that out. But it'll be like, so my unpopular opinion is I really hate people that use smoking pot as kind of like a personality.
Yes.
And also,
it's like my personality is vaguely confused. Hey.
I know, I'm like, you can't do that with any other drug. And I'm and then also people that are like, I'm sober, I just smoke weed every hour
California
of the day.
sober. Yeah.
But you're like, no, you're actually a drug addict.
Yeah.
And you're not fun to be around when you're just like completely stoned. And I'm not saying this about people that, lightly vape at the end of the day to watch their favorite TV
have a little
show.
edible, have a little half a edible, which is my go-to.
Yeah.
That's how much I can tolerate. 2.5 grams. Well, I mean, I, as a person who used to smoke pot, and now I feel like it was like pretty problematic the way I would smoke, because I would just get baked out of my mind for a full day once a week because I like couldn't emotionally handle what was going on.
Yeah, it's really overwhelming when you're so high. There are times I've been high and had to say, I can't do this conversation right now. And it's not even a very stressful one. It's just a very boring one, or I don't know how to respond to it.
It's not that good of a social drug. It's not.
No. And there are times where I'm like, I thought I really liked it, but what was really happening is I was just like with friends enjoying myself, and I was like, oh, I probably could have just done this by drinking
I was just
soda.
Feeling accepted and loved by the people I was with. And you're like, oh, that wasn't the drug.
Yeah. I just like confuse it. But
the thing though, but I know exactly what you're saying, because the thing about like, there's something very specifically funny about it, where it's like the stoner pride, where it's like, yeah, man, smoke weed all day. And it's like, okay, that's you're just like proud of the fact that you're fucked up on drugs.
Yeah. It's like, you don't do that for crack.
Yeah. You wouldn't be like,
even cocaine, which I put on par as like, as weed, because if you do cocaine moderately, I hope kids aren't watching this, but it's really not that fucking big of a deal.
Yeah, well, by moderately, like once every 3 months.
On New Year, yeah.
Once every 3 months, and anymore, you're like completely messing your heart up, and
yes,
like,
absolutely,
you're gonna be
long-term.
very ill.
Yes,
but yeah, well, cocaine is another one that people like love to talk about it for some reason. I think maybe it's because certain people like perceive it as a status symbol of like, I have money and the connections to access getting cocaine. I don't know.
It's a little more taboo, so it's like more of a hush hush.
It's like, it's kind of like a cooler drug, whereas there's some other ones like crank.
But like there used to be
Tina.
I don't know. Oh, can we also get into the people that are pushing ayahuasca really hard?
People love to let you
get
know
away
that they
from
did
me.
Ayahuasca. They love to tell you a long story about ayahuasca. You're like, okay.
I'm just like, you went to the jungle and did it with a rando stranger, and because like Ari told me he did his. They separate you from your loved one, and I'm like, that's fucked.
Yeah, I would not be okay with it. It sounds like an episode of Locked Up Abroad, where you're like just doing some kind of horrific illegal drug in the Brazilian rainforest, and you're just in a hut. Although I know it's Peru. Yeah. Okay, please
lighten up. And then it's only just like rich white people that are going. That also makes me feel like the locals are like.
We're just like,
love it. Like, do whatever. You know how those white people eat this shit up. Like, they're like, I ran out of that tea, and they're like, whatever. Just put leaves in a hot water. They don't care. They don't. Like, they're not gonna know.
It's like a white person, like Disney World. Where it's like, wow, I had this incredible experience. Although I would do ayahuasca if it was like, we're going to some kind of regulated thing in a cabin, 2 hours away from here.
Yeah.
There's no way. It was like, as a woman, it's like, yeah, I don't feel safe getting fucked up when it's like there's some random dude over there. I'm in a circle of like strangers. Like, no way. It's not worth it. You got to throw up.
Yes.
And then it also, if you're on antidepressants, you'll like die from doing ayahuasca.
Oh, I had no idea. That's a good thing to
glad I
know.
told you
Nobody
that, yeah.
ever talks about. But and then I saw there. Oh my God, I forgot what platform it was, but Goop.
Oh, Goop.
Goop. Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop. I thought it was actually a really fun series, but she did one with her crew. They did ayahuasca. She never really partakes in that kind of stuff, but she had a few of her team members go out and do it. And I thought this was really awful. One lady started kind of laughing, and then the guru person shamed her for laughing, and it made her have like a bad experience. And I was like, that's awful.
That's so awful.
I hated that guru person. I was like, she should be allowed, but because it was a group setting, they said it was too much or whatever. It was so bizarre, but like it also, anybody that goes into the job of like, I will be an ayahuasca, I will lead you.
Yeah, I'm a shaman now. It's like, okay, Ted. It's like, no, now it's Rainbow Star. It's like, ugh, okay. It's like those people that like go to Burning Man and then it's like, that's their identity.
Oh my God. And then I just picture, my name is Rainbow, and he's wearing a caftan, and he's like, my parents are gurus. And then they're like, okay, I just need you to put your PIN number. And like, it just like switches over. And our
it's
gift
very
shop.
transactional, yeah.
You were like, all right.
But you know what? It's like a little along the lines, this personality type of people who like, because I smoked pot when I was in high school. I smoked pot like at a very young age, through high school, through college, through like my early days of moving to New York. And it's like, once I got to my 30s, I'm like, I'm so overdoing that. Like, nothing feels better to me than like waking up and having like a latte. I feel amazing.
That's our lady journey.
That's my journey. But like some people, I think like people that maybe were a little less cool in high school than me, running around like a psycho, smoking pot behind the Target. Like some people, they didn't really have that experience of like, you know, having like a hard partying high school era, and then they get into weed like in their late 20s, or they get into it in like their early 30s, and they're like, this is amazing, and you're like, oh God, they like want you to like partake in this awesome experience. It's like, okay, that's your journey, but like, please shut up, shut the front door about how awesome pot is.
Or like it's kind of like being, I guess, lightly mansplained. You're like, I know, I get it.
Yeah, they're like, the bud. Yeah. You're like, the THC. You're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Well, it's also, that was the other thing I did when I smoked in high school. I had friends that were just obsessed with it. And I remember doing the first time I ever like waked and baked, like smoked on the way to school. I slept for 2 periods, and people are like, how did you sleep for 2 periods? I'm like, it was those bullshit classes like business administration, where you had to type words for 50 words per minute, and the teacher, it was a joke. So I just slept under the desk, and she was bad. And there's that. And then one time we all like passing joints around, and then I went home and I just slept from like 7 o'clock at night. So I'm like, I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand how this drug, how people love it so much. I don't get it.
Well, there's a whole thing of like, it interacts with different people different ways. I've been like reading that a lot, because one thing that drives me a little nuts about smoking pot is like, for years people would like refuse to admit that it's addictive. They refuse to, when it's like, okay, but you can't hold a job, right? And then they also completely refuse to admit that it gives you a hangover. And one of the reasons I stopped smoking was because I was like, every time I smoke pot, I feel great for probably about 45 minutes. I feel great. Then I feel so irritable. I have a headache. My whole body feels dried out for like about 4 hours.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't feel good. Like, I'm not, I guess I don't know. I never felt like this, or maybe I did, and I was just smoking through it. Cause, you know, I have a joke about this where it's like, you know, everyone's like, pot's cool, and you're like, cool, I'm freaking out, but I guess this is like a spa. I'm relaxed. I'm so relaxed, you know, and you're like flipping out. But But yeah, like now there's actually stuff where it's like, oh yeah, it does give you a hangover and it interacts with certain people differently. So some people do get hangovers and some people maybe they just don't.
Yeah, no, it has always been weird to me to be like, why are there certain people that are just like obsessed with this
Yeah.
drug? And then for myself, it's just like, yeah, I've had maybe one or two experiences that I thought were pretty fun, and it was nice maybe at the end of the day to just like smoke, and it makes me tired, so I was able to sleep. But it's also, I dated a guy that just I'm talking smoked every hour of the day. And it was so bad as a relationship.
Oh,
Because they're just not there. And then it would also be like, like, I remember going to buy pot at a drug dealer's house. And they were always really nice, but it would be like the weirdest experience. Like, you'd go in and have to like pretend that you're having a full on conversation, that you like to be there.
Yeah.
Their grandmother is like living in their apartment, just like sick in the next room. So you just lightly hear, this is just like the experience I had. And then this guy also was really into like collectible comic book characters.
Oh, wow.
And he would just go through each one, and I'd have to be like, oh yeah, that's like so.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that about you. And then you're like, why can't I just make my transaction and go?
Yeah. It's like, leave the friendship out of it. But I remember I had like so many bizarre circumstances like that. Like when I was in high school, I thought like smoking pot is cool.
Yeah.
So like anything of like smoking pot, like this is cool. But I would have a similar experience where it's like, I'm going over to like a sad person's weird home that's like badly decorated and they've got like weird posters and we're smoking pot, and I'm like, I guess this is really cool. But it's like, oh no, that was just sad and there was drugs involved.
Yeah, you're like, where are your parents? And they're never here, and you're 14.
Yeah.
Happening.
Yeah, it's like your mom has a pill problem and
hasn't
I'm
that bowl
worried
of
for
cereal
you.
been there for a week?
Yeah.
Like this. What's going on here? Yeah, it's only retrospectively you're like, that's actually that I was in a sad home.
I was in a sad home. But like there is there's this like weed culture of like people think that weed is so awesome, and it's like when we did the wine pillows in a way.
Yeah.
It's like when we did the wine pillows in a way, and how people are like, oh, it's fine as long as I have a little pillow that says I don't have a problem. But I brought some, I want to show you like a few of these
weed t-shirts, right?
Weed t-shirts, yeah, which I think are so hilarious. Okay. So I'll get some honest reactions to these. Because, like, weed t-shirts are like wine pillows. Okay, a list of reasons to stop weed. And then it just says number 1, and it's blank.
My shirt would have, like, so many.
Yeah. How about it makes me feel sick? How about that's one reason? Now, I love the weed t-shirts, too, because, like, wine pillows are, like, there's a certain aesthetic to them of, like, they're a little bit mom humor. They're almost kind of like one-liners in a way where it's like, okay, there's some joke structure here. But with the weed apparel, which is what I'm calling these now, it's almost like a high person made this, where it's like, it doesn't make sense and it's a non sequitur. Like this one says, God made grass, man made booze. Who do you trust?
Also, the design element on this one's really bad.
It's really bad because it
breaks, like, the grass part is broken up by the leaf, so it is in a typography kind of way. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, I just do not follow the logic of this. It's like, you know what else God made? Poisons. Have you ever heard of poison ivy?
Also, who do you trust?
God or man?
I know. But you're like, God did make booze.
It's like, is there any room for atheists in this? Here's another one.
Showing up in a weed shirt.
It's like, I cannot think of anything more like, I'm already high. I'm paranoid. Everybody knows I'm high. And now I'm dressed in pajama pants with like pot leaves on them.
Nothing just screams like, I'm a loser.
Yeah.
Than showing up in like weed.
Hire me.
Yes. Date me.
How about this one?
I'm a dad.
I am weed.
Actually, I don't mind this one because the little smiley face is pretty fucking cute on that one. I am weed.
I just feel like this one was made by a really high person that was like, I am high.
Yeah.
How can I sell this as a weed t-shirt? Okay, I've got a couple more here. Oh, this one's great. This one just says healthcare, and it's the THC is highlighted.
Yeah.
It's like, really? Is that what you're using it for?
Yeah.
They don't have like a t-shirt that's like women's multivitamin.
Yeah, and also the amount of like THC they're taking in, you're like, that's not the healthy dosage.
Yeah, that would be like if someone was like, whiskey, good for the brain. Like,
wait, I tweeted one time about CBD oil disparagingly because I actually feel like, does CBD actually work or is it like a placebo? And I know that you kind of have a joke about that, and I got kind of some hate online about it. That people were like, it does work, and I guess for people that are dealing with cancer, and I whatever we're talking about has nothing to do with the people that are in hospice care.
Yeah, if you
can't
hospice,
differentiate that,
yes, please do whatever you want. Do meth if it makes you feel better in hospice. Like, really, I am on your side.
I know this is not what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's like if you're like a guy in his 30s who you can't get a job and you just troll people online, you're not smoking weed every day medicinally.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Can we just agree on one thing?
It's because you're dealing with childhood trauma or something.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
get in,
Yeah, why don't you start facing your fears?
Oh, that's so funny. No, I like this one. And then I have one that says wake and bake, which it's like that's like waking and baking. Like, to me, that is like really a sign that like something is wrong. Like, you have a problem. It's like weed is not exactly like alcohol, but it's not exactly different than alcohol. So like, if you're waking up in the morning and having a glass of Chardonnay, like, please get help.
Yes. I wake and scroll, and I actually still think that's bad for you.
Oh yeah, that's not good for the brain.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at TikTok right when I wake up, and
It
I'm like,
gives
this
me
is
enough
wrong.
dopamine to get my little eyeballs to get up.
Ugh, and this one just says the remedy, but it's like, for what? Your
Yeah,
divorce.
for what?
For what, Ken? But I just love the weed t-shirts. I cannot imagine anything more terrifying than being high and being somewhere in public and then just being like, everyone knows. And it's like, no, they know, because you have a shirt that says I'm high in all capital weed leaves.
Yeah, we know. One time my friend and I went to go buy, we were at GNC and we were looking for that stuff to clear your urine. But we were also high, and the guy, this is in our hometown, the guy that ran it was just like an old guy, and he was like, I know what you're here for, and I need you to leave right away. And it made us feel so bad, but I'm like, now when I look back, I'm like, that was fucked up. But I remember, when you're high, you're like, am I a bad person?
One time, okay, let me share a little high story. One time
I love high stories.
I stayed with my aunt in Los Angeles. My aunt, by the way, is like,
Cool aunt.
she's cool.
Yeah.
She's like 44.
She smokes
So-
pot.
And she smokes. Well,
Just
we get high together.
Yeah.
But I always have to preface that, because when I say I'm like me and my aunt, people are like, "Oh my God, what's going on with your family?" I'm like, "No, we're like 10 years apart." But I was living with her in Los Angeles, and we got baked out of our minds, and we would go to the video store all the time. That's how long ago this was. And my aunt was obsessed with this movie, Kingpin, but she couldn't remember what it was called. She was like, I just really want to see this movie. It has Woody Harrelson. He has a hook hand, and it's bowling. So we went, and we were like looking for 30 minutes.
I love the description.
Hook hand, bowling, Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, what do you got?
I'm like, say no more. So we were looking in the video store for like 30 minutes, which I think is like so different than when you're just like scrolling on like Netflix. It's like we used to just have to be like high in the wild. You're just like, is this it?
Yeah, and the time continuum when you're high, you're like, have we been in here for 8 hours or 30 seconds? Like,
Yes.
what
Yes.
is happening?
It was a long time. And finally,
They're like, ma'am, we're closing in about 5 minutes.
oh my God. So finally she goes, I can't find it anywhere, but I found this video that's kind of like it. It's a DVD. And so we go to the guy, and my aunt's like, I'm looking for a video. It has Woody Harrelson. I can't think of what it's called. He has a hook hand, and it's bowling. And it's kind of like this movie. And the guy picks it up, and he goes, this is that movie. And when you're high, and this is one fun thing about being baked in public. You
And
just
now we shit on
laugh.
high, and now we're like, it's actually pretty
I think
great.
I'm gonna get high right now. And you just have that hysterical laughter where you're like, I cannot believe I was just so publicly stupid.
Yes.
And we just laughed. We laughed in the guy's face. We had to leave. We didn't get any movie. We're like, we gotta go. We have to leave from the store.
That is the best because I feel like Blockbuster probably dealt with the highest people ever, because we have a similar story just on the fact of like, we got high and it was in high school. We wanted to go see Cheech and Chong.
Oh, classic.
We get the movie, and you know how in Blockbuster they put the movie, once you buy it, they put it around the security.
Mm-hmm.
We gave them money, and then we forgot to pick up the movie and went straight home. We're talking about like maybe a second of doing the transaction that we completely forgot.
Oh my God.
We had to go back, but we were like, they know. And then the other time was like, we went to try to go see Beavis and Butthead, and we kept missing the time, and we showed up to the ticket office like 3 times. The guy's like, you guys need to get your shit together. Like,
oh my God. You know what? I'm back on board with pod after
I know,
this.
you know what?
Like,
I feel really bad.
public confusion is like, actually, there's nothing funnier.
Gets to be like a menace in society, just lightly menacing.
Oh my God.
Lady Journey, guys,
Journey.
go
Thank you
out
for
there,
listening.
get high.
Get stoned. But just do it in moderation.
Yeah, and don't be
know.
silly about like.
Don't drive.
Don't
do
drive,
it.
and also don't consume me with how spiritually awesome it is. Just like have a great time with it.
Don't send us a long email about how you couldn't find your shoe. Because we don't want to hear it. Actually, we do. Please email us at ladyjourneypodcast@gmail.com.
Like and subscribe.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.